Hi, I'm Richard Holcomb, and thanks for joining us today for Who Rocks New Mexico? Thanks for joining us this morning for a special edition of Who Rocks New Mexico. Today we're going to learn about the Atrisco Land Grant and the companies that evolved from the agreement that was initially created over 400 years ago. We'll find out what the Atrisco companies are doing today and what's in store for these companies in the future. But first, let's take a fascinating little history lesson about the Atrisco Land Grant itself.
The Atrisco heritage story is one of courage, conviction, and compassion. Faces from the past and faces of today. With names that include Durrani Chavez, Mendoza, Candelaria, and Dominguez. People who overcame all odds to keep, protect, and nurture the land they loved. It's a story that spans more than 400 years. With a genealogical lineage that began with Spanish conquistadors, some of whom settled on this rich farmland right here in Albuquerque's South Valley, an area known as Atrisco. By the early 1600s, many estancias dotted Atrisco, and in 1692, the land was petitioned for and then granted to the Atrisqueños by the King of Spain. These early settlers built their haciendas along the river. They grew corn, beans, squash, chili, wheat, and alfalfa. And sheep herders built corrals and ranches along Atrisco's western edge. Wool and hides were traded for goods with those who traveled the El Camino Real. As with all pioneers, conditions were difficult and sometimes even dangerous. Atrisqueños became accustomed to attacks but learned how to protect themselves from Apache and Navajo raiders. As people of faith, they built a chapel and they called it San Jose de Rancho de Atrisco. And as literate people, they kept records of what was rightfully theirs, preserving their property rights with legal land documents through each generation. By the mid-1700s, Atrisqueños felt hemmed in by the boundaries of their land. Eventually, their requests for expansion were granted, which added over 25,000 acres, extending Atrisco's western edge to the Rio Puerco. With this additional land, the Atrisqueños established a second village, San Ignacio, home to ranchers, farmers, weavers, spinners, shoemakers, and musicians. When Mexico gained its independence from Spain in the 1820s, the people of Atrisco managed to keep their land intact. But when Mexico ceded the New Mexico territory to the United States, it led to more troublesome times. Atrisqueños were happy to be Americans, but the laws were not in their favor, and challenges were frequent. But fiercely protective of their land, the people of Atrisco filed a petition for incorporation in the late 1800s. After more than a decade of uncertainty, their right to the land was validated by the Court of Private Land Claims with a patent signed by President Theodore Roosevelt. The early to mid-1900s saw a decline in agriculture and grazing on the Atrisco lands. Yet Atrisco farmers did their part to provide wool to make army blankets during World War II. One of the first to die for his country in World War II was an Atrisqueño, Antonio Cisneros Tafoya, losing his life in the attack on Pearl Harbor. In 1967, the people of Atrisco voted to create Westland Development Corporation, with the company holding the common lands and the heirs holding the shares. While the creation of Westland was intended to protect the land and be good for all, over time it created disillusionment for many Atrisqueños. The Westland Board held the land and the power, and the people whose ancestors had so deeply loved and cared for the land for more than 350 years found the only thing that still connected them to their land and heritage was an occasional dividend from the corporation. This dissatisfaction eventually led to the sale of Westland's 55,000 acres to SunCal Companies of Irvine, California in 2006. Because for many, they felt they never would see the land as a community benefit again. And so the thought process was, Let's simply monetize the asset. But again, what might seem like the final separation of the Atrisqueños from their land actually brought the people and the land closer together. The people were sad to lose their heritage, and this feeling was openly expressed. Buyers responded, and so the sale of land was structured to provide Atrisco heirs with the financial resources to bring philanthropic services to the greater community, once again allowing the land to provide benefit, thereby honoring the many generations who had gone before. The Atrisco story is a tribute to a people who love their land, keeping it whole for past and future generations, for the good of all. But Atrisco's history is just the beginning, the first threads of a larger story, one that will live on for generations to come.
Coming up, see how the Atrisco companies benefit the greater Albuquerque area. In today's competitive marketing environment, there's a lot of buzz about drone video. Businesses of all types are looking skyward for better images to promote their companies, products, and services. Communities large and small are using drone video for economic development and tourism applications. Real estate agents know the value of drone video as a powerful selling tool for the homes, commercial buildings, and properties that they represent. Even ranchers are finding new and unique uses for drone video. And everyone wants professional drone video for their websites, social media, trade shows, and more. That's why Cliff Dweller Digital has 3 full-time FAA-certified drone pilots on staff. They'll consult with you to ensure that your drone footage captures exactly what you want and need. Nothing compares to drone video, shot indoors or out by the professionals with more drone capabilities and experience than anyone else in New Mexico. Cliff Dweller Digital. Check us out at cliffdwellerdigital.com or call Andrew at 505-363-2796. We look forward to working with you.
What every child deserves.
To be safe in our home.
Food and clothes.
Not to be hurt.
A good education.
To grow up with our brothers and sisters.
To be loved, valued, and respected.
El Ranchito is a loving and stable children's home where brothers and sisters can live together as they grow into adulthood or until they can be reunited with their families. With your help, El Ranchito de los Niños will continue its mission for years to come. Learn how you can help. Call us today.
Welcome back. The Atrisco companies are comprised of 5 nonprofit entities that serve and benefit not only the Atrisco heirs, but the surrounding community as well.
The birth of the Atrisco companies is a story 400 years in the making. A story of land preserved against all odds by generations dedicated to the land's purpose and its meaning in their lives. In 2006, a historic moment occurred for those of us who are heirs to this land. We made the decision to sell our land, the Atrisco land grant, to SunCal Companies of Irvine, California. Fortunately, this was not the end of our 400-year legacy. Our ancestors and our current generation would not allow the land's meaning to simply stop there. So instead of an ending, we created a new beginning, a path that was even more genuine and authentic to our ancestors' original hopes for this land. And so, the Atrisco legacy continued with the birth of a social enterprise. Companies derived from the sale of the land, with the purpose of benefiting the heirs of the land, as well as our greater community. This new social enterprise, these 5 new companies, are creating a pathway into the future for countless generations to come. They combine free market business skills with social philanthropy, bringing high quality, sustainable, competitively priced services to our community. We are proud to say that these highly successful companies, with their focus on education, cultural preservation, and economic development, set a precedent for other nonprofits to emulate as models for sustainable community support.
The Atrisco Heritage Foundation was originally formed out of the sale of the Atrisco land grant land to SunCal in 2006 to promote and preserve Albuquerque's ancestral heritage and the history of the Etrisco Land Grant. One of the main ideas around the Etrisco Heritage Foundation was to provide scholarships to heirs of the Etrisco Land Grant to complete secondary education, whether traditional or non-traditional. Currently, we have refocused Etrisco Heritage Foundation into the economic development realm. We developed a curriculum tied to Common Core that is to help students prepare emotionally for college and career. And that curriculum is being taught in high schools. For that reason, we forged a partnership with AmeriCorps Vista, capacity builders and researchers in the quest to improve college and career opportunities for our youth.
So AmeriCorps Vista, the federal program, it is used to fight poverty throughout America. As someone who has worked in the AmeriCorps Vista program, I had the opportunity to go to Del Norte High School here in Albuquerque and help out the students there in college and career readiness.
We're also involved in Guide to Greatness, a citywide program that emphasizes the development of self-confidence, interpersonal skills, and character building, along with pragmatic techniques to improve their academic success.
The Guide to Greatness focuses on the emotional side, the social side of things, where the students who are struggling with self-esteem issues, who don't know how to study, who don't have the right attitude for getting work or starting work in the working world, or going to college, or even just preparing for later on in life.
Another example of our effort centers on supporting the artistic work of New Mexico artist Federico Vigil. His amazing frescoes help preserve the rich history of Spanish colonialism, which ultimately led to Spanish land grants, such as the Etrisco Land Grant.
In the sale of the Etrisco Land Grant, 3 historic cemeteries were retained by our organization. Originally, the cemeteries were created for the Trisqueños of the Etrisco Land Grant, so our ancestors are buried there, but anybody can come and be buried at any one of our 3 cemeteries. San Jose de Armijo is one of our oldest cemeteries, and we have a pavilion there that people can gather, and we have our annual Dia de los Muertos event there. Our Dia de los Muertos event has grown, and it's become an event that families look forward to every single year. Santa Clara is one of our oldest cemeteries and one of our most beautiful cemeteries. We just added 3 beautiful crosses at the top of the hill. We have beautiful murals there, and it's a culturally sensitive cemetery. Evangelico is our smallest cemetery. Evangelico was created for families who typically were not Catholics. And it also is the home to our Bernalillo County indigents. We give our families a lot of freedom to be able to express their loved one's life.
I don't know anyone from the South Valley who I grew up with or who I know that doesn't have a family member or a loved one buried here.
I am very proud because this is where my husband wanted to be buried. I didn't. I wanted him to go to where there was grass and it was pretty. He says, no, these are my roots and this is where I want to be.
This is where we come from, and our entire family is buried here. We have 4 generations that are buried here.
When I became a partner with the Etrisco companies, I was impressed right away with just the depth and the comprehensiveness of their commitment to community and especially to education. Rio Grande Educational Collaborative provides fun yet academic-based lesson plans tied to Common Core. It also offers assistance with homework every day, ensuring children are prepared for the next day's classroom lessons.
When we find out from the teachers exactly where the needs are, we support those needs in reading or math, and we supply enrichment activities. We utilize 2 educational models to ensure a high-quality, unique environment for our children. Our E-cubed model after school and our 4 corners teaching strategy before school. We sneak in academics with activities and kids don't even know they're learning. We have many students that start at a really low reading or math level, and by the time they're in our program for, let's say, a year, then their grade level moves up.
I've learned how to read a lot. I'm the top reader in my class. They have pretty good teachers here.
The staff at our GEC gets comprehensive training, and because of that training that the staff gets, the children and the families that are experiencing the training are getting a higher level of quality than they can get anywhere else.
From time to time, all of our directors, coordinators, and people that work in our office, we actually roll up our sleeves and go to our programs and work in our programs so that we keep connected to those kids. Parents really appreciate our program because we're actually located on site.
It's great because they're able to come to RGEC after school to work on their homework. They have the help from the RGEC instructors, which is great. So we're able to go home and have more family time and review their homework rather than just spend our whole night working on homework with them.
The more and more I've gotten into it, I realize that every sort of facet of the Atrisco companies touches education somehow. And it's just the culture of who they are.
When the land was actually sold, the one thing that was looked at is what do we keep? What's the main thing we hold on to is our mineral rights. And that was important because at least it gives us that last thing that we can say, okay, this is important to our heirs, and we can make sure that our heirs know that. Let's just say we found gas. You know, all of a sudden there's gas underneath there. And then we're able to pump that gas out. Well, that's an economic benefit to our heirs. We own the water rights. We know there's water there. It's pretty far down, but we know it's there. As technology gets better over time, it's easier to get to those rights that are underground. The true value is going to be there. We know there will be a value. We know that. We see that. That's why we set that aside, and we realize that there's going to be some value someday. And we look at that as kind of our investment in our kids and in our future of the organization of our company, but mainly for the future of our heirs. One day we really believe this opportunity is going to bear fruit.
Mariachi touches me personally because it's been a family tradition, and I grew up participating in Mariachi Spectacular, and so it's been just a wonderful part of my life, for decades now. The Mariachi Spectacular concert is really a world-class presentation of the best talent in mariachi music from all over the world, and that's really why it attracts such a broad base from around the country and internationally. It inspires all the participants who get to go to the show, but also the public at large, that, you know, mariachi is a rich and complex genre, and you get to come and hear musicians who are really world-class. The impact isn't just on Albuquerque, but statewide, even nationwide, because there's participants even internationally that come to Mariachi Spectacular. But the mariachi impact goes far beyond concerts. The Mariachi Spectacular workshops present a unique opportunity for students to learn from some of the legends of mariachi music.
The reason that the program started was, I think, an answer to a dream to bring more music appreciation to young people, and especially a music that's part of their heritage.
It's just a really wonderful way in order for us to provide access to learning the different instruments in mariachi. Some of these students are very young, and so they don't really have the background of what the music means. La Pasión de Mariachi is a great way to showcase the concert and our partnership with the university in bringing mariachi to our community. The purpose of La Pasión is really to educate and raise awareness to our community about mariachi. It's a free event, and each session is probably about 15 minutes long, where they'll give the background and the history of all the different instruments and why each of those instruments help formulate the larger mariachi group. And so La Pasión is a way that we can educate and raise awareness as far as mariachi and the impact that it has in our state.
The Mariachi Hall of Fame is so important because it really provides a way to preserve the legacy of these wonderful musicians who have sort of paved the path before us. And it serves as an inspiration for all of the participants to see that a lot of the people who they are learning from in the workshops are actually in the Hall of Fame. The Atrisco company's investment in Mariachi Spectacular speaks volumes to the mission of education. Because of these programs in the schools, it really helps students remain engaged in their education and empower them to really feel like they're doing something important and giving back to their community. These 5 highly successful companies had their beginnings centuries earlier, but in just 10 years, we have built these entities into a dynamic social enterprise, the Atrisco companies. While each company is distinctly different, their collective focus is on education, cultural preservation, and economic development, bringing exceptional value to our community and New Mexico as a whole. All 5 companies, all born from the same heritage, the Atrisco Land Grant, are threads of today woven together with threads from the past and those yet to come, creating a tapestry rich with history, culture, and social significance for us all.
Up next, let's see what's in store for the Atrisco companies.
We'd like to invite you to First Tuesdays, a free networking event created specifically for business owners and executives.
Giving you the opportunity to interact on a personal level with business people just like you.
Mark your calendar for the first Tuesday of every month.
4:30 to 6:30 at Hotel Albuquerque's Q Bar for free hors d'oeuvres, happy hour cash bar, and networking with fellow business owners and executives.
It's your opportunity to make new connections, build new relationships, and share new ideas with your peers.
And each month, one lucky business owner is going to win $995 in advertising on 99.5 Magic FM.
And a free website analysis worth $775 from Cliff Dweller Digital.
No pressure, no speaker, no roster, and no rules.
And name tags with first names only.
So the focus is on you rather than your company.
It's First Tuesdays for business owners and executives, 4:30 to 6:30 at Hotel Albuquerque's Q Bar. To register, visit firsttuesdaysabq.com.
With a history that goes back more than 400 years, the people of the Atrisco Land Grant have been around for a long time, but that doesn't mean they're resting on their laurels. They've got a vision for the future.
With the Atrisco Land Grant as our heritage and 10 years of successful philanthropic growth behind us, one might ask, what's next for the Atrisco companies? We can confidently answer that question with this. Our future is bright. After all, our children are the future. We've built a solid foundation for future growth, rooted in the values of our ancestors, with a commitment to the greater good of our community, focusing on education, cultural preservation, and economic development. Our business model as a social enterprise with diversified businesses has proven to be very successful. And we've created a strong back office, one that provides turnkey administrative support for all 5 companies. With this model in place, we'll continue to grow and diversify, scaling our current companies and adding new ones when appropriate, all of which will grow within our local economy. Our business types will focus on culture and education, but our business model will focus on strengthening our communities through homegrown businesses that build wealth, yet keep it local.
The thing I really love about the Atrisco companies is that these are models that are put together carefully in a way that they are sustainable. They really pay their own way as they can grow into the future and really become bigger and become a main part of New Mexico's economy as well as our cultural heritage.
The focus of the Atrisco companies is sustainability, but it's also to create a legacy that we've adopted over our last 400 years of the Atrisco Land Grant. We have a 400-year-old legacy, but we hope that the next 100 years creates a sustainable path for our heirs and the Albuquerque community to bring in continued resources into the state that are much needed.
Gosh, in the last several hundred years, we've been able to sustain our heritage with the Atrisco Heritage Foundation and all the entities that we have. In the next 10 years, we've got a lot more to come, especially when you have a sound business model that continues to perform results and bring our entities to the next level.
So what that means is as we identify new business opportunities and feel that they're great mission fits with our organization, we can add new companies to the organization, to Atrisco, rather simply, rather easily, and continue to expand our social impact on the community. All of our companies are important. Every one of them is meaningful to the overall mission of the Atrisco companies. We do have a driver, however. That driver is the Rio Grande Educational Collaborative, RGEC. This company, providing academic-based before and after school services, is capable of growing far larger than it is today.
We are looking at expanding that company into other cities within the state, and we have been very intentional in identifying those cities so that we can continue to provide our a wonderful academic program, but also continue to offer the quality program that our customers have become accustomed to.
Right now today, RGEC is in over 50 after-school sites across our state, but we have an intentional plan, a strategic plan, to grow that number to over 100 in 10 years.
Mariachi is already attracting huge international attention, and yet here in New Mexico, with the foundation we have of cultural events here, it can grow even much larger than it is.
Mariachi Spectacular is like the Super Bowl of mariachis in the world, actually. You know, we celebrated our 25th anniversary a couple of years ago, and when you can pack the Sandia Amphitheater with 5,000 plus sold out event with these rock stars of mariachis, that it's basically a tourist attraction, because, you know, we have the Balloon Fiesta, we have the powwow, and we also have the Mariachi Spectacular.
As we are broadcasting this internationally now, in our Civic Plaza event with our showcase competition, we're seeing more and more awareness of New Mexico, which we expect is going to bring in over the next 10 years about 20% more into the state as far as tourism.
One of the things I'm most passionate about is our cemeteries. We have an opportunity to provide our people, the Atrisco heirs, with affordable burial services, and more importantly now with the advent of ashes or cremations, where we would offer columbariums to our people. And so that is a new opportunity for us that we haven't really touched on yet, but we're looking forward in our 10-year plan.
So we have a business, a social enterprise right now structured to really provide high-value services at low cost. And that has been the ambition of our organization from the get-go. Community-based services to the public, to our heirs, that are affordable and highly valued.
We are going to continue to identify areas that we can grow in every single one of our companies.
The Atrisco companies are a beautiful model that's put together in a way that it builds on the economy and it builds on sustainability. Each of the companies provides part of the pieces that make the whole thing work together. And going into the future, it really works with the young people of today to help them grow and keep the heritage of New Mexico alive well into the future.
We're so proud that we built an organization that we can pass on to our young people so that they can continue this trend in our resources for 100 more years to come.
The Atrisco companies. When you have a history that extends over 400 years, there are many chapters to the story. The Atrisco Land Grant has been one of the most successful land grants in American history. The threads of our past are strong, as is the fabric we've woven over the past 10 years. The tapestry we create moving forward will continue to tell a story of a people committed to giving back to their community, thanks to the foresight of our ancestors and the values they instilled in us. It's a story of social significance for us all. It's a story that continues to be relevant, and it's a story that continues to be written.
Well, that's all the time we have this week on Who Rocks New Mexico. And as we get ready to ring in the new year, here's hoping that 2018 is even better than 2017. And when you're out and about this week, make sure when you see our men and women in uniform that you thank them for their service. I'm Richard Holcomb, and we'll see you back here again next week for another episode of Who Rocks New Mexico. And Happy New Year, everybody.